In the sun-kissed cradle of Alexandria's marble halls, a Greek dynasty wore the double crown of Egypt. From 305 to 30 BC, the Ptolemies, descendants of one of Alexander the Great's generals, ruled this ancient land. They weren't just conquerors, they were chameleons, blending their Hellenistic culture with Egypt's millennial-old traditions. They built libraries that held the world's knowledge and temples that honored both Greek and Egyptian gods. But this fusion was never seamless. It was a kingdom built on a fault line. A delicate balance between the Greek-speaking rulers and their glittering capital and the native Egyptian population who worked the fertile lands along the Nile. This cultural divide, a constant, low hum of tension, would shape the destiny of the entire kingdom. At the very heart of this dynasty was Ptolemy Isoter, the founder. A Macedonian general and a childhood friend of Alexander the Great, he seized Egypt after Alexander's sudden death in 323 BC. He didn't just take the land, he took its soul. He declared himself pharaoh, adopting the ancient titles and rituals to legitimize his rule in the eyes of the Egyptian people. He established Alexandria as his capital, transforming a small fishing village into the intellectual and cultural epicenter of the Hellenistic world. Under his guidance, the Great Library of Alexandria was born, a beacon of learning that attracted scholars and thinkers from across the known world. But Ptolemy also started a tradition that would become a defining, and often destructive, feature of his dynasty: sibling marriage. Intended to keep the royal bloodline pure and power within the family, these unions would lead to generations of internal strife, betrayal, and bloodshed, planting the seeds of instability that would haunt his descendants for centuries. 2.5 centuries later, the Ptolemaic dynasty was a shadow of its former self. Weakened by internal power struggles, family feuds, and the ever-growing influence of a new superpower across the Mediterranean, Rome, the kingdom was on the brink of collapse. Its rulers were often puppets, propped up or torn down by Roman political factions. The wealth of Egypt, once the engine of the Ptolemaic Empire, was now a prize coveted by ambitious Roman generals. The people were restless, burdened by heavy taxes needed to pay off debts to Rome. The glory of Ptolemy I's reign had faded, replaced by a desperate struggle for survival. The kingdom was a ripe fruit, ready to be plucked, and it was into this volatile world of decline and danger that the last, and most famous, Ptolemy was born, Cleopatra 7. She wasn't just another ruler in a long, troubled line. Cleopatra was different. Exceptionally intelligent, she was a true polymath, fluent in at least 9 languages, including, crucially, the native Egyptian tongue, the first of her dynasty to bother learning it. This simple act endeared her to her people in a way none of her ancestors had managed. She understood that to rule Egypt, she had to be more than just a Greek queen, she had to be an Egyptian pharaoh, a living embodiment of the goddess Isis. Ascending to the throne as a teenager, she shared power with her younger brother, Ptolemy 13, in a tense co-regency orchestrated by Roman interests. But Cleopatra had no intention of being a pawn. She was ambitious, charismatic, and utterly ruthless when she needed to be. Exiled by her brother's court, she didn't accept defeat. Instead, she gambled everything on a single, audacious move that would change the course of history. Her target was the most powerful man in the world, Julius Caesar. Smuggled into the palace in Alexandria, famously rolled up in a carpet, she presented herself to the Roman general. It was a calculated risk, but it paid off spectacularly. Caesar was captivated, not just by her beauty, but by her intellect and her iron will. He became her ally and her lover, defeating her brother's forces and placing her firmly back on the throne. Their union produced a son, Caesar Ion, whom Cleopatra hoped would one day rule a combined Roman-Egyptian empire. A dream of power that stretched from the gray skies of Britain to the sun-scorched sands of Nubia. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed as though she had saved her kingdom, tying its fate to the might of Rome through a bond of love and blood. But fate is a cruel mistress. Caesar's assassination in 44 BC shattered Cleopatra's plans and plunged the Roman world into another brutal civil war. Her protector was gone, and she was once again in a perilous position. The future of her kingdom and her own life hung in the balance. As a new set of powerful men vied for control of Rome, Cleopatra had to choose her next move carefully. She needed a new champion, another Roman powerful enough to guarantee Egypt's independence. She found him in Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general and one of the triumvirs now ruling Rome. She arranged a meeting, not as a desperate supplicant, but as a goddess. She sailed to Tarsus on a magnificent barge with silver oars and purple sails, dressed as Venus, the Roman goddess of love. Antony, like Caesar before him, was utterly enthralled. Their partnership was one of both genuine passion and political strategy. For a decade, they ruled the eastern Mediterranean together from Alexandria, living a life of legendary opulence. They had 3 children and dreamed of a new Hellenistic empire with Alexandria as its capital, a direct challenge to the authority of Rome. To their Roman enemies, particularly Antony's rival, Octavian, this was an unforgivable betrayal. Octavian's propaganda machine went into overdrive. Painting Cleopatra as a decadent foreign sorceress who had ensnared a noble Roman hero with her wicked charms. He declared her a threat to the very fabric of Roman society. The stage was set for a final, cataclysmic confrontation. The love affair that was meant to save a kingdom would instead become the pretext for its destruction. The final act of this grand tragedy played out at the naval battle of Actium in 31 BC. The combined fleets of Antony and Cleopatra faced the navy of Octavian in a decisive showdown. The battle was a disaster. For reasons still debated by historians, Cleopatra's squadron fled the battle mid-fight, and Antony, abandoning his men, followed her. Their forces were crushed. The lovers escaped back to Egypt, but they were defeated and broken. Octavian's legions pursued them, closing in on Alexandria. As the Roman army breached the city walls, Antony, hearing a false report of Cleopatra's death, took his own life. Cleopatra, now truly alone, barricaded herself in her mausoleum with her most trusted servants. She knew Octavian intended to parade her through the streets of Rome in chains, a living trophy of his victory. She would not grant him the satisfaction. According to the famous legend, she had an asp, a venomous snake and a symbol of divine royalty in Egypt, smuggled to her in a basket of figs. In her final moments, she dressed in her full royal regalia, becoming the goddess Isis one last time. With the bite of the asp, Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, ended her life and the 300-year reign of the Ptolemaic dynasty. With her death in 30 BC, Egypt ceased to be an independent kingdom and became a province of the Roman Empire. Octavian, soon to be Emperor Augustus, had won. The dream of a Hellenistic empire was dead, and the world belonged to Rome. Yet, the story of Cleopatra and her kingdom has never truly died. She remains an icon of power, intelligence, and seductive charm. But was she a selfless patriot who used her wits to defend her country? Or a reckless gambler whose ambition brought about its ruin? Was she a victim of Roman propaganda, or was she truly the decadent queen they portrayed? The truth, as always, is likely somewhere in between. She was a brilliant and complex woman fighting for survival in a man's world, a Greek queen who became an Egyptian pharaoh, and a ruler who dared to challenge the might of Rome itself. The Ptolemaic kingdom may have fallen. But its legacy, carried on the winds of history by its unforgettable final queen, endures forever. What are your thoughts on Cleopatra's choices? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the past.